show you something, actually. Did you take off? Were there like two little brushy drumsticks?
Yeah, they're right here.
Yeah, I want to show these to you. These are nice. I thought you might like them.
Ooh.
Not a gift, I'm sorry to say. It wasn't like I thought you'd like this because I would have wrapped it. But because you drum, I know that you drum.
Yes.
And I drum a bit. I'm not a pro. I'm like decent. And I feel like finding brushes that feel good and can sort of do the thing that you need them to do is really hard. So I wanted to like share those with you. And I don't know, get your take on them too. You slide the rubber piece up. You can kind of make them tighter.
Yeah, I find brushes actually that like have those full sleeves that cover them like are actually the worst.
The metal ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, and those are like the quote unquote the proper ones.
Right. Well, I found metal ones that just exist. They don't have any like adjustment or anything, and they're actually quite sweet and they're very delicate.
What don't you like about the collar on the regular ones? Because I struggle with those too.
You know what? Those like they're like the wire, you know, like they don't feel good in your hand. This feels amazing in my hand. This feels proper.
Yeah. So I want to share those with you.
Thank you.
When did you start playing drums? Like when I was working at the studio and you just started taking lessons? Was that sort of your first foray into drumming?
No, I started as a child.
Oh.
Yeah.
How old?
10, maybe.
What got you into so how did that start? Because I feel like with drums, I wanted to drum when I was probably the same age, and my parents were like, there's no way you're already making enough noise in our lives. So like how did that get going?
Just the school, you know, everyone had to choose an instrument, and percussion was it for me. Rhythm. It was just felt like the right thing, the coolest thing, to be in like school band and be drumming. So that's where I wanted to be.
And as far as music is concerned, like, what kind of stuff were you listening to? Because obviously school band is not necessarily
band. Yeah.
Yeah. Band is not like, you know, when you're listening to the radio or like, you know, having rock star fantasies. It's like kind of a very separate thing. So like, what were you listening to? Did you want to be in a...
Oh, I'm going to age myself.
We already discussed age. We're all good.
It's not recorded.
You're 31 this year.
31
You're 31 years old this year.
I think probably what I started jamming with was like the Go-Go's. Nice. Yeah, I can actually, I think like Pat Benatar was kind of in that, like, you know, rock, female rock, I think I was most drawn to.
You liked the female rock?
Yeah.
Heart?
So. That's like too big. No, it's like production music.
Yeah, they were pretty epic.
Yeah.
The Go-Go's, did you go? Did you go when the drummer Go-Go was in Asbury?
No, I didn't.
A couple years ago. I'm forgetting her name, so sorry. She was at the studio doing some stuff, but I know she was also at the was it Confections of a Rock Star?
Yeah.
At the sweet shop. She was doing
another drummer over there.
I guess a book signing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Kimmy's a like rock star, you know.
I don't know her.
Oh, so yeah. So you probably want to talk to her because she's like legit rock.
Oh, so maybe she had the connection with the Go-Go's and the whole bit. Yeah, she was promoting a book. And Pat Benatar is going to be at the Basie.
Yeah.
Are you going?
I've been. I've seen her at the Basie. Great.
Are you going to the one
show.
Whenever it's coming up?
I don't have it on my calendar, but I would love to.
I'm going to send you the date because Julie's going to be there.
I'd see her anytime. It was an amazing performer. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
So when did you start? Did you play in bands at all? So when did it go from like something in school to kind of wanting to?
You know, when I moved out of my house, I had to like let go of the drum kit, as we all do, because we don't have a place to play anymore. So I was not playing for a lot of years, and came back to it probably in the last 5 years or so.
So when I was seeing you around the studio, that was sort of the return.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah.
So what style? Tell me about like what style do you like to play? Tell me about your drumming. We get a good amount of musicians, in these parts,
Yeah.
these Asbury Park parts.
I'm all about tempo. I'm not, I want to play anything, and I want it to be like rhythmically solid. That's my focus. It's not, and I'll like anything. I want to participate in. Like I enjoy all of it.
Any style.
Anything. Yeah. I'm not versed in jazz, so that would be a big limitation. But anything that I can jump in on and hold down a tempo and play with a group of people that can appreciate that, and I'm there.
Are you looking to play some gigs, or have you?
So returning to Lake House again this summer, which I'm excited about, and I've played with the people I'm playing with at Lake House for probably those 5 years. We've done some gigging here and there. We were hiccuped by COVID, coming, and loss of a fingertip.
You lost a fingertip?
I lost a fingertip, yeah. So we were at my roaster, actually. So that kind of interfered with like everything we were doing, and those things kind of happened back to back. So most of us are coming back together again, including my wife. She's a pretty amazing guitar player, so I'm excited to return to playing music with her.
All right, we got to talk about your finger. What? I'm not trying to laugh either.
No, it's gotta laugh. Yeah.
Well, it just reminds me of a friend of mine growing up who I worked at his bagel shop, and the bagel making machine. Exact same situation.
Yeah.
Except, probably different parts. Like,
Yeah.
Is it cool that we talk about this?
We could talk about it.
So what happened? What the hell? And this was only, 4 or 5 years ago?
Yeah, it was, December 1st, 2019. Yeah.
What happened?
I was roasting Jamaican Blue Mountain, actually, like super stupid expensive coffee. And it always makes me nervous to roast that coffee because you don't want to screw that up because it's super stupid expensive. And something went wonky with the roaster, and I'd not experienced it before. And in my attempts to figure out what was going on, I got my fingertip between a cog and a chain, and it took it off.
How does the roaster, like I've seen your roaster, but like I don't really understand like how they work.
So in
the
back of the roaster, there's a spinning drum inside, and that drum is spun by a cog that has basically a bicycle chain, for visual. And so I was trying to move that, and in moving that, I created so much momentum that I just took my finger all the way through the in between the cog and the chain and around the
up to the first knuckle.
Yep.
I assume.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, that's so hardcore.
I had to keep roasting too. I was like, I just like tucked it into my sleeve, and I'm like, I must keep going.
That's hardcore.
Well,
was that a special batch? I guess.
I never roasted Jamaican Blue Mountain again, and I don't think I ever will.
We're blaming the Jamaicans.
I'm the pressure of of $50 a pound coffees is a lot.
So you finished roasting because you had to.
Yeah.
You have a tourniquet of some sort.
Yeah.
And a lot of paper towels.
Actually, it wasn't that messy. I don't know why. I think I don't know why it wasn't that messy, but it wasn't. It just kind of just kind of hung in my and I think I was clenching my fist so hard because I didn't even really know what I did. I knew I did something, and I knew I did something bad, but I needed to focus on getting this coffee out of the roaster because bad things can happen, right? It could start a fire. Like worse, it could have just gotten worse from where we were, but
that's not something that can be like reattached or anything. Like, I don't really understand.
No, it wasn't reattachable. They were able to. They did. We found it, and they were able to take some of that tissue and kind of make a smooth surface. But it is now named Dinky.
Old Dinky there.
Even has an Instagram page. Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah, Dinky Peterson.
Dinky Peterson.
Yes, because you have to make light of these things and make him, he's like a character.
It's a he.
It's a he, yeah.
Dinky's a boy.
Dinky's a boy. Yeah.
Was a man, now a boy. Dinky, where Peterson? Where's Peterson come from?
I don't know. It was like he looks like a. If I'm honest, if you want me to,
this is the
he
time
looks
to
like
be
a
honest.
little Peter. So I think Dinky Peterson.
Oh, he's a little Dinky Pete.
Yeah. Yep, just shared that with the world.
No, all right. So everyone should go and check out the Dinky Peterson Instagram. You said?
Instagram, yeah.
Instagram page, accessible through Asbury Roastery. Speaking of which, Asbury Roastery, 17 years.
That's right.
2007. I came to your coffee shop in 2009. I was working in Asbury Park, and one of my colleagues brought in coffee, and I was like, damn, that's really good coffee. I was never a coffee snob. I just always knew when I didn't like. Didn't always know what I liked, but knew what I didn't like.
Yeah.
And I just feel like most coffee I just did not like. And someone's like, oh, we're picking something up. I'm like, oh, don't bother.
Yeah.
And it was excellent. And Mr. C, that was his name. And Mr. C told me, oh, yeah, there's a new, I guess it was new-ish,
yeah.
2 years at that point, new-ish place in Asbury, 4th Ave. Second Ave, sorry. Yeah. 2nd Ave. And I said, oh, I'm going to have to go check it out. And I think the next day on my way into work, I grabbed a cup of coffee. Maybe you were there. Maybe you weren't. I don't remember. But
I'm pretty sure it was just me at that point.
There couldn't have been anyone else. It's impossible.
Right?
If you weren't there, the door's locked.
Pretty much. Yeah.
That's amazing. It was great. I've been, I love your coffee. I tell everybody about your coffee.
Thank you.
I think it's the best. And not to like fetishize coffee, although I'm sure it's easily fetishable. I've had, I think, every coffee in this area, in this Monmouth County area. It seems like there's a lot of coffee.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like there's a lot of coffee drinkers. How come yours is so much better? I mean, I know this is an opinion, and I'm not trying to make you brag or anything, but I have issue with a lot of the popular places around here. We don't need to name their names. We know what they are, but it's just not nearly as good, in my opinion. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, okay, so you get beans, you roast the beans, and then so it seems simple, although I'm sure it's not. Obviously, it's dangerous as well, which we just learned. Spawned a Dinky. And so what's special to your process? I mean, can you speak to what's the magic in your roasting? Because I really honestly feel like you have the best coffee. I wouldn't want to have had you on the show. I like you as a person, but it wouldn't have, it was less attractive to me. Because I'm like, this is the best. I think you're the best. How are you the best? Tell us.
I think one thing that differentiates Asbury Park Roastery from a lot of what's going on out there is I still roast the coffee. From day one, with the exception of maybe a week, I've roasted every bean that's gone out of the shop. And I think that matters because that's where my heart is. I'm not there to run a business. I really do love coffee, and I do attribute whenever someone asks me, what is special about your coffee, and it's love. I know it's probably not an answer you're looking for, but I genuinely love what I do when it comes to working with coffee, and I bring that into the equation. And a lot of my roasting has kind of become intuitive. There's a lot of roasters out there who are, charting every temperature drop and temperature rise and the times, and I still gauge those things just to check everything is operating. But my roasting has become very intuitive over the years.
So some people you can take a purely scientific approach.
You can.
And we have a lot of friends like in the brewery business and the beer business.
Mhm.
It seems like there might be a lot of similarities there. But you've moved the other way. So then what does it mean to be intuitive about roasting a bean? Are you just going like, oh, like my grandmother, like when, she was cooking when I was young, she would just know when everything was ready because the house smelled a certain way.
Right.
Like, oh, it's ready.
Yeah.
Nothing ever got checked or tested. It's like, oh, it's ready. Is it like that, or are there visual cues?
There's definitely visual cues. There's aromatic cues. Most of my checking is done at the beginning of my roasting day because, variables change, right? The roasting process can be slowed down if it's a cold day. It can be accelerated if it's a warm day. Humidity is going to affect things. So once I have a sense of how coffees are responding, then I know how I want to be guiding them through the process of a roast. And I know what I'm looking for. And visually, there's an auditory element to it. There's a first crack and a second crack during the process that tells you where the coffee's kind of landed.
What does that mean, crack?
So coffee goes through two processes of expansion. So it starts as a very dense, solid seed. And during the roasting process, it becomes a woody. The bean you're grinding, it's kind of woody.
It's like porous.
Yep, porous and woody.
Yeah.
That starts off as the raw coffee is very dense, and tiny, and it's probably going to double or maybe even triple in size during the roasting process, kind of like popcorn would do.
So they're really small.
It's pretty small, yeah. So it maybe triple is too far, but double is safe. But that expansion is an indicator of where the coffee is in its process.
And what's going on with the bean itself during a roasting? Like it's cooking, I guess, to some extent. But is moisture leaving? Is it ripening? Is it?
So moisture's leaving, and ideally you're creating sugar. If you are a black coffee drinker, you will experience a sweetness to a cup of coffee that someone who's adding sugar and such won't notice. But if you allow your palate to adapt to a good cup of coffee, you will taste some natural sweetness in that experience. So, and what is making the coffee is oil. From that seed, you'll see in darker roasts that oil will rise to the surface. That's why your beans are oily, but that's actually what is blending with water to make your cup of coffee. And the porous woody material just becomes a vehicle, and it also is an insulator. So if you're leaving your coffee whole bean, it's allowing those oils to stay fresher.
I usually buy the whole bean from you. Actually, always.
Yeah.
Just an excuse to use a grinder. Wake people up.
Yes.
So if moisture's leaving and it continues to leave as you roast, then how come the darker roast is oilier than a light roast?
So the oil and the moisture are two different pieces of the puzzle. I think you can lose probably about 20% moisture during a roasting process. So if I put 10 pounds of coffee in the roaster, I'm not going to get 10 pounds out. The oil is there present, whether it's a light roaster or a dark roast. It's just the dark roast encourages that to come to the surface. Those oils are still in the lighter roasted coffee. It's just they're not feeling the pressure to get to the outside of the bean. And as the coffee sits over a period of weeks, that oil will start to come out. And eventually evaporate, and it's when the coffee starts to get unhappy.
How long can you buy a bag of beans? How long on average? And can you freeze them? I don't want to forget that question because I feel like I've heard two different answers from various people. I've never asked you, which is probably what I should have done.
Yeah. I like for people to use coffee within a week. I think if you're going to invest in fresh roasted coffee, then have fresh roasted coffee. 2 weeks, fine. I think coffee's still fine after a 2-week window. Maybe even up to a month. I'm not I'm a very soft edge type person. I'm not a third wave, measured to the gram type person, because I just don't live that way. That's just not my nature. So for me, I like to use my coffee within a week because I enjoy all of that. I want to get everything I can out of that cup. Can it go longer? Absolutely. Freezing your coffee. If you're in a situation where you can't use it within 2 weeks, I would say, if you're going to go into 3 weeks, 4 weeks, I think freezing your coffee is not a bad move. Refrigerator, terrible idea. Airtight in a freezer, not a terrible idea. It will hold up better over a longer period of time in that environment versus just it being sitting out on a counter.
And then when you need to take it out of the freezer, is there
no,
just take it out?
Just use it. Yeah.
Okay, so there's no condensation issue. Is that what the refrigerator is the refrigerator worse because it causes condensation?
Because the oils are going to interact with that moisture, yeah. And they're going to absorb, coffee wants to absorb everything, so it will absorb, your tuna fish sandwich in there.
You're not brewing the tuna.
No,
the tuna bean.
If you experienced that was not a flavor attribute I was pursuing.
You weren't going for that'd be funny. I like it. And maybe other shops do this too. I don't know. I'm not trying to say you're the only person who does this, but the only shop I read that at is it'll give sort of tasting notes.
Mm-hmm.
So hey, here's a region, the Honduras. Here's a roast, medium, and here's the flavor profile. Toffee and butterscotch. I don't know what those flavors, and they're subtle. I think if someone's not like a regular coffee drinker, it's like, okay, it's coffee. But I'm a regular coffee drinker and I drink it black. So I really like to explore all the flavor notes and try and find them. And sometimes I can, sometimes I can't. But what's going on in the bean? Is it just is that just the trace of where it was grown, its flavor profile? Or are you doing something on your end with the processing and the roasting?
I think everything is already in the coffee. I'm just actualizing it, realizing it. So all of that potential is there. So I have little to do with that, other than choosing the path that the coffee goes down to realize that. It's the environment that it's grown in, the earth that it's grown in, the altitude that it's grown in, because it will grow slower, faster based on altitude. How they're handling it, if they're picking only ripe cherries versus just picking all the cherries that are on the trees, despite their ripeness.
That's what they're called, cherries?
Yeah, coffee cherry. How it's processed. All of those things play a role in how that coffee is going to present. But all the potential is already in that bean when it comes to me. So I can either destroy that or actualize that.
What's the process? I know you don't grow and harvest, I don't think.
No. Maybe a handful.
What is that process? Can you just sort of break it down for the listeners? I didn't know it was called a cherry. Is it a tree or a bush? Can you just sort of take us through the agricultural process?
It's a tree. It can grow up to about 8 feet tall. There's a whole bunch of different varietals out there that are also going to play a role in how the coffee tastes. A lot of farmers are mixing different varietals. Ideally, when it's picked when it's ripe, a lot of that is done by hand. And I think it takes about 2,000 of those to make a pound of coffee. So you can imagine the amount of labor that is on the other side of this experience.
So in most of the world, it's still done by hand?
Mostly done by hand. Yeah. I think Brazil is probably, exception to that on some level. But
How so?
well, they have machinery. They're the biggest producer of coffee in the world, so they're have it fine tuned. But so from there, there's either the fruit is washed away or the fruit is dried onto the bean. In most basic terms, and both of those will also affect the flavor. Like if you dry the fruit onto the seed, it is going to be a fruitier cup. The Ethiopian would be an example of that. And then the seeds need to be laid out to dry. And that's a very, kind of 30,000 foot. They have a crop season, so there's months out of the year that they're producing the raw coffee. And raw coffee has a pretty good stability, so it can sit on the shelf for months. That's when coffee has some time, when it's in its green state.
So once it's picked, it takes a long time for it to sort of go.
Yeah. And also it starts to lose moisture over time, and that's, but that doesn't mean it's still not a viable cup of coffee, but it will start to lose some of its subtlety.
Have you traveled to some of these places? Like, have you seen any of these farms or plantations? Or
I've not. No.
So then what? I mean, maybe is it safe to say that passion for coffee, passion for the bean sort of was first? It wasn't, I want to run a business. Was business ownership sort of far secondary to just passion for the bean?
It's not on the list.
Yet you've done it.
I know, but it was the only way. It was the only way to roast coffee. Like I had.
That's true. If you were doing this like by yourself, you had all this like big gear, sacrificing a finger, like it would be,
The business had to exist to sell the coffee. I know that sounds crazy. I'm terrible at business, and I do the best I can with it. But really, it's the vehicle to have a reason to roast coffee, because you can only give so much coffee to your friend.
So your roasting is like a way for you to actualize what the bean wants to do. And then once that happens, you need to have a business to actualize people appreciating and enjoying it.
Yeah. That's basically the truth of it.
When in your life did you start to get like very passionate about coffee and beans and want to sort of take it past like, oh sure, I'll have a cup of coffee?
Early 20s, I think, somewhere in there. And it took me, I did a lot of home roasting and a lot of, I went and worked for somebody else for some years. And very grateful that someone was, because I was pretty honest, like, I want to be a coffee roaster and I need these experiences and I'm going to go do this one day, but if you'll let me just come in and, sweep your floors, I'll spend some years here and teach me. And somebody did that. And
was that in the Monmouth County area?
Yeah, it was a shop called Longview Coffee. It was actually in, is that Ocean? I don't know. It was Howell or Jackson. I don't know. Is that Ocean?
Howell is Monmouth County.
Is it Monmouth County? Yeah.
I think it is. So you just hit them up, like?
Yeah, I ran into this guy at a trade show, and it's so rare and so important, because people feel threatened by that. Sharing that experience and knowledge, but it's so important to, give. I'm so grateful that he was willing to take that step with me.
Mentorship is clutch. We had a guest on, Russ, who was talking about that. He's a car builder, and just the person, the gateway, the entranceway, the gatekeeper, someone who's selflessly able to show you the ropes and not, because it seems like a lot of people are afraid to share information because maybe they feel like that's a threat to their business or that you're some spy who's looking to undermine them.
Yes.
It's a natural tendency, I suppose, for humans to sort of be like, hey, I worked really hard at this, and hey, this is knowledge that I acquired. I think it's part of the human condition. I mean, the opposite is true too, you know, sharing and being open. But I think in the business world and in our culture, it makes sense in a way that people would be apprehensive or afraid. Doesn't make it right. I think it sucks actually, but it kind of makes sense.
Yeah. I think the one thing I've learned in 17 years about business is the worst decisions are made out of fear.
In anything.
All of them. Like all of my worst decisions were all fear based. So that's all that's all not like I'm afraid to try this. It's like I'm afraid if I don't do this. Because I've also made like a lot of decisions that I didn't do something because I was afraid to do it.
You starting Asbury Park Roastery in 2007, was that like a big part of it?
Oh my gosh, it took me so many years. Like it took me
Fear.
Yeah, fear. Just getting over fear. And it doesn't really subside.
So for some years before 2007, you're like, I should open up a coffee shop.
Yeah, I was
every day. I should open and not doing it.
And it was always, oh, I think I need some other experience. I need to go work for this shop and see how they do that.
But you had already done that.
Yeah, but I was always looking for, oh, well, I think I need another experience first, you know.
What were the first steps? So when you finally, if there was even that moment where you're like, fuck it, it's happening. For like, you know, people who maybe are interested in starting their own business or starting a local small business, and yours isn't even that small. I mean, you have more than one location. But what are the early steps other than getting over the hump of apprehension?
I think gaining experiences that are going to be valid in what you want to do. You know, I've known of people just, they want to open a coffee shop, they just go do that. And I think there is value in learning some skills before you just step into something. And then I think location is, you know, that is a hard process of finding a place to do what you want to do. And make sure you have some emotion about it, I think. Have some feeling about it.
And how about, I mean, you don't have to get into specifics, but how about the financial responsibility or burden, or however you want to look at it, of like, okay, we need a location, we need, you know, materials, we need, what's the most expensive piece of equipment you have? Is it the roaster?
Yeah.
Like what does a roaster cost?
Now I don't know. You know, 20 years ago, it was in like a nice car. Yeah.
Amazing. So the financial burden. So how did you go about that?
I had just bought a house in Asbury Park, and you know, we kind of caught Asbury Park right as it was kind of taking steps forward that were kind of sticking, and was able to kind of take some money out of the house to fund a part of it.
We were talking those years in Asbury Park. Yeah, that's a good way to describe it. Those were the years when it was taking steps that were going to stick. And it's not the first time that's happened, right, at least in my memory. And, you know, we've got about the same 8 years underneath us. Not the first time that the town has done that. I'm trying to imagine that end of town. It's a little different, you know, 17 years ago. Did that feel like a risk? Did you prefer to be somewhere else? Was that a second choice, or was that like, no, this is perfect?
No, when I found it, that's it. Because it was right in the middle, and that's where I wanted to be. I didn't want to cater to anyone in particular. Like, I wanted to be a coffee shop in Asbury Park, and I wanted to have access to all sides of the train tracks, so to speak. You know.
Yeah, things, I hear what you're saying there. Things that are like maybe in the hipper parts of town, sometimes that can get a little saturated with its own hipness. Do you think you would have been able to do, like, create the same type of business if you were in what I think a lot of people would call maybe the desirable spot? Or do you think it's your business and your success and your longevity and your passion really is tied into sort of where you are?
Um, I think it matters that I chose the choice I made there, and I'm happy that I made that choice because I feel like I'm a part of a community, a broad community, you know, and that matters to me. Like,
Is-
I don't feel like, I don't know, I may not have survived, like the Cookman Avenues of the world just because it was, I mean, and is, so expensive relative to the middle of Asbury. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good point. That's a good point. I mean, I love all parts of Asbury, so
Mhm.
I'm not trying to throw shade
No,
on
for
any
sure.
sections, but as someone who grew up in the area and as someone who's worked in the town, I like this idea of being in the middle. That's a sweet spot to
Mhm.
be in a town like Asbury because it's definitely for a lot of people it seems like a one-dimensional town, but it is not. It's got so much, and I realized that when I was teaching there,
Yeah.
which is when I met you. Um, there's so it's a very rich town culturally, experientially. There's anything you can think of, and things that you don't want to think of too. Sometimes is going on. And you've had your neighbors have changed over the years. So
Yes.
you when you started, you were a single storefront on the second ave location. You've since expanded.
Mhm.
And can you talk a little bit about the expansion and also your location on the boardwalk, which is a great spot, although I'm sure it's like a stressful location.
Yeah.
But it's so cool that it's there. Um, can you talk a little bit about expanding and growth and how you've managed that and maybe some of the ups and downs of growth, and then maybe talk about if you're planning on growing more or what the future might hold, without letting out too many secrets if you have them.
Um, well, the boardwalk in Convention Hall was our first venture out, and I'm really grateful that they were nudging us to do that. And all I kept thinking was, do you know how many cups of coffee I'm going to have to sell in order to make this work? Like it
Who's
was
they? When you say they were not,
Madison Marquette, right? So
oh, they
that was,
wanted you.
well, I mean, it was, back then it was still like you could walk down the boardwalk and, not see someone. So it was still,
Right.
so they were, it wasn't because I don't want to mislead you into thinking,
I know what you're
they were
saying.
buying for me. It's just, I'm grateful that they kept nudging me to,
Well, at the same time,
come
they
do
thought it
this.
would be a good fit. It wasn't just like, please, wait, you're a human, you have a pulse. Like, I'm sure it wasn't that.
Close.
I mean, at the end of the day, you provide a service that, I mean, it's so universally appreciated, used, talked about. There's dependency
Yes.
issues. There's
Thank goodness.
it's a
Yeah.
it's a real relationship.
Yeah.
It's a real relationship. I mean, how many things on earth are like that? So maybe I don't know, pizza? I don't know. But then there's not pizza everywhere. Like I can't imagine being in certain like continents or certain parts of the world and like getting a slice. But like I feel like coffee is everywhere. Is there anything as I don't know what the term would be, as universally just part of the landscape of humans as coffee? Is there anything?
Gasoline. I don't know. Food wise, I don't know. Like my first thought was gasoline. Like everybody goes and regularly fuels up their
Oh,
car.
that's true. That's a good
I
point. I
don't
was
know.
thinking about food, but
Um,
yeah, that's a good point. Gasoline too.
yeah,
Pizza,
I don't know. Do you
water.
even pizza, water? Maybe, yeah, maybe water.
I like wine. I don't know. I feel like wine is like ancient and generally appreciated, but that's problematic too.
Problematic if you're hitting that every day at the end of it. Like, so I'm hitting coffee
It's
every
not as problematic as coffee.
No, you're hitting your morning coffee. Like, I can't imagine starting my day without coffee, in those rare occasions where you have to go get blood work or something and you're like, this is miserable.
Like, I'm sorry, I have to fast. Does that include coffee?
Yeah.
Because I'm sure it doesn't.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I just had to get a bunch of blood work done. And I usually drink. I don't drink coffee early in the morning, so I usually don't have a cup till like 11 or so. So it's easy for me as long as the blood work is happening in the morning. If it's in the afternoon, it's like, oh, I don't think that's going to work.
Yeah.
What, talk a little bit more about when you finally did expand. So you're in Convention Hall, which is just the weirdest, wildest structure
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah.
Like it goes in and out of, it's condemned, it's not condemned, this part's condemned, this part's fine. What was that like, finally jumping into that space and then having to probably sell a lot more? I mean, you said that, like, oh my God, I got to sell a lot more coffee. So how did you do it, or did it just happen?
It just happened. I thank God. It kind of just came together. I mean, obviously I'm invested in trying to put my best foot forward, like this is the best cup of coffee I can give you. And that resonated with people. And so we are that source now, like people know where to find us, and I'm grateful they'll stand in a line to do it. But it's I don't know, Convention Hall is a unique animal, but I think it also is a significant contributing factor to our success. The fact that we're inside Convention Hall is, I think, I want to say paramount.
Hey, where's the sticks?
It's really a part of our success.
Yeah, I mean, because on Second Ave, great spot, love that spot, but like you're not getting a lot of foot traffic there compared to, on the boardwalk. Of course, that's seasonal. Mm-hmm. So like in the winter, does the boardwalk location, do you stay open in the winter, or is that 12 months?
We're not 7 days, but we are 12 months, yeah.
Okay. You also were on the other end of the boardwalk for a short while.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that? So third location, which is not there anymore.
Nope. Can
you talk a little bit about like what the thinking was behind that, and maybe like what worked or what didn't work?
So I'll say that is probably one of those examples of a fear-based decision. Afraid that, somebody else is going to come in, somebody else is going to threaten, what we have. So I think that was a fear-based decision, feeling the need to take that spot and do that. And
why? You were at another coffee roaster was going to go into that
or
spot?
Another coffee shop, like that. It felt like I wanted to protect. So I think, and that there was no reason for me to think that. It seems logical that another coffee operation would be on the boardwalk. So I think, one of those examples of a fear-based decision, proving itself out.
So what was the calculation then, as hard as it might have been, to close that location? It
was draining all the other shops. It would have run us into the ground. So high, super expensive to operate, super expensive to be located there, and not at all successful. Quite painfully, actually. But
was it hard to make the decision to cut your losses at that point, or did that feel like failure because it's something that you were trying to grow?
Yeah, complete and utter failure. Yeah.
Even though it was what was right.
Yeah.
But it made you feel that way.
Yeah.
You have not suffered with leaving that location. I assume did it fix a lot of the draining issues?
Yes. Well, I think there's still some recovering going on from that, but yes, stopping that bleeding was, kept us floating.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to wait, well, maybe it'll just be one more year and then it'll catch on.
It's hard to know. It's impossible to know.
It's easy to get caught in that, though, because again, your ego gets in the way. I'm about to fail here, and I'm gonna have to have that conversation because every customer wants to have that conversation. So I don't know how many times a day I had to say, I failed. Just over and over again. What happened? Is it that closed? Yes, I failed.
I don't think the average person would observe that as failure.
Yeah, I don't.
Because the average person doesn't have the balls to begin with to start a business.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I think, yeah, I don't know. That's the only answer I have for people when they want to have that conversation.
That probably shuts it down real quick too. Yeah. Oh, it's because I failed. All right. Anyway, have a good day. So maybe it works in your favor. You get to burn through those conversations really fast.
It's like, I'm just going to be brutally honest. I failed.
The temperature just goes. Oh.
That may be true. That it just like, where do you go with the conversation from there?
So good job. Good job wrapping up those chats.
Yeah. I think I even stopped you there for a second. You're like, I don't know where to go with this conversation now.
Yeah, I'm a failure too. Fuck it. We're out. Let's go get a drink right now.
Ooh, it hurts though. It's like,
Do you still think about that?
Sure. But I think, now I think about it differently, like as a learning experience, because when I have, and I'm more stepping back now and seeing things and seeing the decisions I'm making, and just because my nature is changing. I'm getting older. I'm hopefully getting wiser. So I'm starting to not get caught up. I'm trying to step away from the stress and just enjoy the experience, enjoy the process, because otherwise, what's the point? But I think I'm starting to be able to see those things now. This is why I made the decision to do it. This is why it didn't succeed, because it wasn't motivated by the right things,
Is motivated by fear.
Second Avenue, motivated by love. First Avenue, motivated by fear.
Interesting. Do you still do you want to have more places? Do you want to have more growth, or whatever the correct term would be?
No. I think I'm just not built for that, and I think that, kind of plays a role in things too. Seeing other coffee businesses around me just kind of explode into all these locations. Like, oh, is that what success looks like? Does that mean that I'm not successful? Am I supposed to be doing that? Am I supposed to be in all these places? There was pressure on me at first.
From yourself or from outside too?
Oh, well, for myself, and people call all of these shops competition, so you get caught up in that, like, oh, I'm competing with these people, but I'm not. Like, 50-year-old me could say, this is not a competition. Nobody's going to get a trophy at the end of this. We're all just trying to, I'm just trying to put out a good cup of coffee. I hope they're trying to do the same thing too. And I wish them well. And I wish every business that sells coffee or whatever it is they sell, I want them to be successful. And that's a much better place to come from than, I'm afraid of what they're doing and what are they doing, and now I need to react to that.
Well, yeah, because those signals, if you're tuned into that frequency, are constant.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, they're doing this. Oh my gosh, they're doing that. And I've got caught up with that in my own life.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you're just looking across the table. Oh my God, they're doing this.
Right.
So that means I have to do it.
Right.
Or they're doing this. Now what I was doing feels diminished.
Right.
But I still do it as a human, but I know that it's just a very shitty way to look at the world. And, what is it? Comparison is the thief of joy.
I think it's true.
So, of course, in a business sense, you still have to be smart. It's not just like, oh, we're comparing. I mean, you are technically competitors, and
no,
not at all.
No.
Well, that's amazing.
Well, I think,
you have to know what's going on. You have to have some sense of a landscape.
I have no idea what's going on. I'm not sure why I need to, like, I've heard that, right? So this is me, bad business owner. Like, I've heard that you're supposed to know what your competitors are up to, but I don't know why. Like, it's not going to change what I'm doing. I mean, I'm trying to make decisions based on what my customers want, and I'm trying to give them my cup of coffee. And so it doesn't really matter, truthfully, what everyone's doing and what they're charging for it. And the truth is I'm just trying to do the best I can.
If a change was to be made based on things that were going on outside, you would eventually organically get that message. Like it would just come through your customers and through like your day-to-day experience, like just more a natural way of, so for example, pricing or whatever else, or just what's popular, like those things, you can get those signals from competition or from looking at, market research, I guess, or you can just listen to your customers. Sounds like the latter has been working out a lot better for you. Well, so no plans for growth?
No, I hope to shrink. I hope to not in the too far distant future be back to one location.
Do you foresee that being a location that's different from the two you have?
No. I think at some point I'll have to reel it in from the boardwalk because it's a lot, And
what's going on with that convention hall area? Like politically, is that like, do you have any sense of sort of what's happening in that space and the future for that space and what the owners of those properties are planning for that area? Do you have any dirt to share? Any inside scoop?
No dirt. The last thing I've heard was that, the city is in control of this money that's come from the state. And the city and the mayor have expressed that they would like to see the Paramount reopened. So they would like to see that money invested into the Paramount and getting that facility back open. And I think that would be amazing.
It's a beautiful theater.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Want to know the first thing I saw at Paramount Theater?
Yeah.
What was WrestleMania? They would do this is before you could rent things, I guess. So they would do broadcasts of events at theaters. So this is maybe early 80s. And I forget what they called it. There was a term for that. You guys, I'm 1,000 years older than all you guys. Fuck you.
Who are you talking to?
So oh, you mean the internet? No, much earlier.
Well, maybe the sporting stuff now, like MSG will broadcast a Knicks game when they're away.
It was a thing. It was probably the precursor to pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Or something. So only select.
Sat there and watched WrestleMania on that screen.
Yeah, so they had the broadcast signal. I guess you couldn't rent it or get it on TV networks, but some places would get the signal. Yeah, I went to go watch WrestleMania. It was WrestleMania 2, 3, who knows?
Wow.
And that was my first thing at Paramount. I've been there probably 1 million times since. School plays.
Yeah.
Saw plays there. There's some highlights. Morrissey.
Oh, nice.
That was a good one. What about you? You got any memorable?
Probably my favorite show there was Sarah McLachlan came there she was doing a benefit for Mary's Place, and that was amazing because it's such an intimate space.
It's so intimate.
Yeah, much like Basie. That's probably my favorite. I think the first time I was there was actually to see a comedian during Pride or something. There was
at Paramount.
Yeah.
They did comedy?
Yeah. They tried to create events around Pride weekend, and I think Susan Westenhofer or something I saw there early on. But I would love to see that space back open and someone invest the energy and turning it into actualizing that theater's potential.
Oh, 100%. I think it's Asbury Parks and Monmouth counties. I think it's just it's a gem.
Yeah.
And there's so much energy around that space. I mean, there's a real scene around that area. Do you feel, is there a coffee scene? Maybe, and you're just not plugged into it, or is there a coffee culture?
Yeah, I think yes. I think it's not my generation. So I'm not plugged into it, but it exists. I mean, I see it in my staff. I know that there's things going on with some of them, who are engaged in. It's kind of I don't know, we went to went to the Inkwell, back in the day.
Yes.
So I'm sure that's happening for that generation now.
Folks listening, there was I don't know, not really a coffee shop, just as like coffee shop. It was a like a restaurant.
I don't know what it was. It was the Inkwell.
It was the dirtiest place.
I would know. It was always dark in there.
That's why it was dark. If you put a light on the floor or the tables in that place,
Yeah.
it would be horrifying. Yes, there was a place called the Inkwell, everybody, Long Branch.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's still there. I don't even know.
Yeah,
But
it's
that,
still
yeah,
there.
that was our spot too. And apparently it's been there. So I was talking to my mother and like she knew about it.
Yeah.
From like generations prior. That was the spot. I just remember that was like, you could just sit and drink coffee. You know, you could smoke cigarettes until
Right.
your freaking head fell off.
Right.
And maybe get an appetizer. It was just one of those hangout spots, which I guess, I don't know if those things still exist.
I don't know.
I don't know if
they
a place
should.
can be a hangout spot anymore because it just wouldn't make enough money.
Right.
That was a very unique spot.
Yeah.
Inkwell. Oh my God.
That's like, it's magic though, in a bottle, right? Whatever that was, that's magic. And people should have those kind of spaces. I don't know where they are. But
Well, I think your space is that. I think your space is one of those spaces. Do you think you'll ever train someone to roast your beans?
I don't know.
I've been thinking about that since you said it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, well then, like forever? Are you the roaster forever?
I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. It's a good question. So that's, getting over the fear that we were talking about of showing someone, like
You might need an apprentice.
I might.
Can you even do that anymore? Like, can you legally like have someone like you're teaching and not paying them?
I would never do that. And no one would ever do that anymore, I don't think. But
Okay. I don't know.
I don't think anyone's doing that anymore.
Showing how ignorant I am.
But yeah, that's like, it's getting over that fear of this is a threat,
Maybe someday.
I hope so. I hope I get to the place where I'm ready to move on to other things.
Stepping away from the coffee.
Yeah.
But still having the business?
I don't know. My interests are expanding. Getting new teachers in my life and learning new things and things that like big picture stuff, like meaning of life stuff and being connected to the universe, like all of that is drawing me. And I think I'm kind of trying to bring that into my coffee shop now, that whatever is transforming in my life, I'm trying to bring those things in because they come together, because that's all about connection. And hey, maybe these people that are coming into my coffee shop, I can start connecting with them on different levels, like on human levels,
That's what we've done.
Yeah. Yes.
So it's pretty cool. I think I think Asbury Park Roastery is distinct in that way. So yeah, I think roast the best beans in Monmouth County. That's my opinion. I think a lot of people agree with that. But it's you. Like the product and the place is you. And I think, just as a customer, as a friend now, I think you're just doing a killer job. I think whatever you do, you'll do well because you appear to come from like here while you're doing it. And I think that you'll do excellent whatever you do. However, I still want your beans. So maybe if you leave the coffee business, maybe you go back to the old days where you were home roasting and you still just have like a couple people that you hook up. Or like a drug dealer, like a small time drug dealer. Like, all right, cut up a little bit for this one, the other thing.
The only security we have in all this is I actually drink my coffee too. And I don't have another like resource. So that's a problem, right? Because like I'm going to have like.
All right, good.
Yeah, I'm kind of tied to this because it's hard to find a good cup of coffee. It's so hard.
And that's why I really wanted to talk to you. It's like, it seems kind of silly that like everyone can't crush.
Yeah.
But of course not, because everything comes down to process. Everything comes down to little minute details. And then there's like what, grandma would say, because there's love in the soup. That's like, it's not the pasta brand. It's not the salt content of the stock. It's the love that goes into things. And I think you're killing it. I think there's a ton of love in your coffee. I love drinking it. I appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you. Folks, Asbury Park Roastery, 2nd Ave, and also on the boardwalk. It's my personal favorite, in case I didn't say that enough times today. Probably going to have some immediately following this show. Alli, really appreciate you coming on the show. All the best with the business, and whatever you do, and your drumming, and maybe a pair of those sticks is in your future.
Yeah, thank you for challenging me to do this. I appreciate it.
Anytime. We'll have you back when you start your next business.
Okay. I would love that.
All right.
Much different conversation.
Oh, 100%. Take care, y'all. Thanks for watching.